corridors of Lincoln High School buzzed with the familiar symphony of teenage life. Slamming locker doors, laughter bouncing off the walls, and the scuffling of sneakers on polished floors. It was just another morning in suburban Ohio where nothing extraordinary ever seemed to happen. But hidden among the chatter and chaos was Lily Grayson, a quiet sophomore who had mastered the art of invisibility. At 16, Lily was the type of girl no one really noticed. Her clothes were plain, her shoes worn, and her hair always hung loose, veiling her face like a protective shield. She moved through the hallways with her head down, clutching her backpack straps tightly as if they might keep her tethered to some invisible anchor. Most students couldn't recall the sound of her voice. Some weren't even sure she spoke at all. She was a shadow, slipping unnoticed from one class to the next. But on March 12, 2025, all of that would change. That morning, the hallway felt different. The air was heavier, electric, like the quiet before a storm. Groups of students had gathered in their usual cliques, the jocks tossing a football, the cheerleaders gossiping near the water fountains, and the troublemakers leaning against lockers like they owned the place. At the center of it all stood Brandon Keller, the school's golden boy, or at least that's what he liked to believe. Brandon was a senior, tall with broad shoulders, and the kind of smirk that made teachers sigh in frustration, and other kids either idolize or fear him. He had a reputation for trouble, pranks, fights, and a knack for picking on anyone who couldn't or wouldn't fight back. And today, his sights were set on Lily. "Hey, ghost girl," Brandon's voice rang out, sharp and mocking. Conversations died mid-sentence as students turned to watch. The nickname had stuck to Lily since her freshman year, a cruel reminder of how quiet and unseen she was. Lily froze for a second, her heart pounding, but she kept walking, hoping he'd lose interest. Brandon didn't. He stepped in front of her, his towering frame blocking her path, while his three sidekicks formed a semicircle around her. The crowd around them grew as students sensed something was about to happen. "Where are you going, huh? Back to your invisible friends?" Brandon taunted, his grin widening as his friends chuckled. Lily's breath quickened. She'd endured this routine before. The comments, the shoves, the laughter. Her mother's words echoed in her head like a broken record. "Keep your head down, Lily. Don't make waves. Just ignore them." But deep inside, something in her was shifting. Maybe it was all the bottled fear, all the nights she'd spent pretending to be smaller than she was, hoping to go unnoticed. Maybe today she'd just had enough. "Say something, ghost girl," Brandon pushed, stepping closer. His breath reeked faintly of the energy drink he'd been sipping earlier. When she didn't respond, he smirked and without warning raised his hand and slapped her across the face. The sound cracked through the hallway like a gunshot. Lily's head whipped to the side, her hair flying across her face. The sting burned her cheek, but she didn't cry. She didn't move. For a moment, the entire hallway seemed to fall silent. Brandon grinned, expecting tears, maybe even a frightened plea. That's what always happened, but this time was different. Slowly, Lily straightened, her gray eyes locking onto Brandon's. And in that split second, something in her gaze shifted, a cold, calculating calm that made Brandon hesitate. "You shouldn't have done that," she said, her voice low but steady, barely more than a whisper. "What? You gonna cry?" Brandon jeered, his laugh echoing down the hall. He raised his hand again for another hit, but before his hand even came close, Lily moved. What happened next would become a story whispered in every hallway, captured on every student's phone, Lily grabbed Brandon's wrist mid-swing, her movements so fast they blurred. With a fluid twist, she yanked it downward, using his own weight against him. There was a sickening crack as Brandon's elbow bent the wrong way, and he let out a raw scream, collapsing to his knees. The crowd erupted. Some students gasped, others shouted, while dozens pulled out their phones, recording the scene that would soon explode across social media. Brandon's crew froze, their bravado draining as they saw their leader writhing on the floor, clutching his arm with tears in his eyes. Lily stood over him, her breathing steady, her face unreadable. "Don't touch me again," she said, her tone cold but calm. Then, just as suddenly as it started, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd as if nothing had happened. By lunchtime, the incident was all anyone could talk about. The video of Lily's lightning-fast takedown was everywhere, on phones, on X, in group chats with captions like, "Quiet girl breaks bully's arm, OMG." Comments flooded in, "She's a total badass. Did you see how calm she was? Brandon deserved it." But beneath the online fame, Lily sat quietly at her usual table, earbuds in, avoiding every curious glance. She didn't want the attention. She didn't want to be anyone's hero. All she wanted was to survive another day. Of course, the incident couldn't just blow over. By the afternoon, Lily found herself sitting across from Principal Nguyen, a stern woman with silver-framed glasses, who regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Mrs. Callahan, the English teacher, who had arrived seconds after the incident, stood nearby, recounting what little she'd seen. Brandon sat across the room, his arm now in a sling, his face red with both pain and humiliation. His parents hovered behind him, voices raised and demanding punishment. "She assaulted our son," Mrs. Keller shouted. "This girl is dangerous." Principal Nguyen turned to Lily. "Do you want to explain what happened?" Lily lifted her gaze, her expression calm, almost emotionless. "He hit me first," she said simply. "I defended myself." The room fell quiet. Brandon's face twisted with anger. "She broke my arm. She's crazy." But Principal Nguyen wasn't convinced. "We have multiple witnesses who say otherwise, Brandon," she said firmly. "The security footage will confirm what happened." In the end, Brandon received a short suspension for initiating the fight, while Lily was given a formal warning for using excessive force. As they left the office, whispers followed her, whispers that carried a mix of fear, awe, and curiosity. To everyone else, Lily was just the quiet girl who had suddenly snapped. But her past told a different story. 2 years ago, Lily lived in Chicago with her mother, Sarah, and her stepfather, Derek, a man whose cruelty left scars far deeper than bruises. Derek was a mean drunk, the kind who came home late and looked for someone to take his failures out on. Most nights, that someone was Lily. She learned quickly how to read his moods, how to avoid his fists, how to hide when things got bad. But one night changed everything. Derek came home, reeking of whiskey, and found Lily in the kitchen. Without warning, he struck her so hard that she hit the floor, her lip splitting open. That night, something in both Lily and her mother snapped. Sarah, normally timid and quiet, grabbed a kitchen knife, her hands shaking as she told Derek to leave. He laughed, lunging for the weapon, but Lily, without thinking, grabbed his arm, twisted it the way she'd seen in self-defense videos on YouTube, and dislocated his shoulder. Derek was gone by morning, arrested for domestic abuse. After that, Sarah moved them to Ohio, hoping for a fresh start. But Lily wasn't the same girl anymore. She found a local martial arts dojo run by a retired Marine, Sensei Sato, who saw the fire in her and helped her channel it. She learned Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, skills she honed every single evening. It wasn't about revenge. It was about never being powerless again.